Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to put on my digital philosopher hat today as we jump right into this. We're looking at one of the most fundamental, existentially massive shifts in all of human history, the true dawn of artificial intelligence. Now, we aren't just talking about a shiny new piece of software here. We're talking about a transformation that literally goes right to the core of what society means, how we work, how we connect with one another, and honestly, what the future of our species actually looks like. So we're going to explore the sweeping shifts in global labor, the ethical minefields we're already walking into, and the very real crisis of human connection that AI is dropping right on our collective doorstep.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a massive, honestly pretty provocative question posed by a theologian from our source material. Are we exchanging the sky for a cloud? Think about it. Humans have this innate, deep-seated desire for something transcendent, right? Something way beyond ourselves. Historically, we've looked to the sky, we've looked to philosophy, to religion. But as AI becomes this supposedly perfect, infinitely upgradable entity that can just instantly answer our questions and cater to our every need, there's a very real risk that we're projecting our deepest human desires onto a digital server, a literal cloud. Are we trying to satisfy a profound existential hunger with an algorithm? It's a fascinating question, and it really frames everything we're about to unpack.
So that brings us right into Section 1, a crisis of human connection.
On one hand, you could say AI is perfectly positioned to cure our modern epidemic of loneliness. But on the other hand, we run the risk of losing authentic human interaction entirely, because we have to realize we aren't just building tools anymore. We are actively immigrating new beings into our society. We are literally bringing in entities that will act as companions. And some of them are going to be far smarter than us in certain ways, and then surprisingly dumb in others. Some are going to act essentially as digital slaves, while others will be treated as our literal best friends. Humans are already forming actual emotional love relationships with holograms and software. This digital Pandora's box is wide open, and it's filling a profound void of human connection. But just like the myth of Pandora, we have to make sure we keep hope inside and somehow guide this whole thing for the ultimate good.
And this brilliantly illustrates how our cultural framing completely dictates our relationship with these new digital beings. In Western cultures, which are heavily influenced by concepts of guilt and tend to view machines as soulless or even, as skeptical terminators waiting to take over, there's naturally a lot of resistance to AI companions. But then look at Japan. Their traditions are rooted in beliefs that everything possesses a kind of soul, which makes it far more acceptable to interact with, care for, and even love a social robot. For an elderly person, a robot companion that never complains and is always there might actually be vastly preferable to relying on busy relatives. It just goes to show that our acceptance of AI to cure loneliness isn't just about the microchips, it's entirely about the cultural lens we wear.
All right, moving from the deeply personal over to the professional, we arrive at Section 2, Labor in the AI Age.
Look, every time we've gone through an industrial revolution, humanity has historically been forced to adapt and move up the value chain. But the information age? That is officially over. Statistically speaking, we are now living in the AI age. Back in the information age, humans were the ones doing the heavy lifting. We created the data, we shared it openly, we consumed it. Today, closed AI systems with all their built-in biases are the ones generating the content. And the wild part is, it's actually other AI systems that are primarily consuming, curating, and summarizing that content for us. The fundamental, basic mechanics of how information flows through our society have completely flipped upside down. So the crucial point here is what we call the algorithmic loop. Generative AI creates the text and the synthetic images. Then, other AIs consume it, they critique it, and they optimize it. And then eventually, future AI models are trained on that AI-generated data. It just becomes a completely closed loop. This is incredibly dangerous, primarily because it completely lacks transparency. It permanently bakes in biases, locking us into a reality that's mediated entirely by artificial lenses. We're entering a space where we frankly can no longer implicitly trust what we read, see, or hear.
And hey, let's not forget the physical, real-world cost of all this digital labor. To put it into perspective, the human brain, which is the most complex machine we know of, runs at about 30 watts. That is roughly the power of a dim light bulb. But to train these large language models, it requires the power of a small town. The carbon emissions, just to train one of these major models, is equivalent to multiple transatlantic flights. So we are sitting in this extreme paradox right now. We absolutely need the data crunching power of AI to help us map and solve climate change, yet the AI itself is heavily contributing to the exact same climate crisis we're trying to stop.
Which swings our pendulum over to the entities actually pulling the strings. Section 3, Big Tech versus Democracy.
We absolutely have to talk about the immense corporate power governing these algorithms. Industry specialists are currently projecting the AI market could reach a staggering $1 trillion. Trillion with a T. When you look at a number that massive, you have to ask yourself honestly, is unrepentant consumer capitalism ever going to willingly hit the brakes on something this incredibly lucrative? Our sources suggest the answer is absolutely not. Economic drive is pushing this forward at breakneck speed, heavily prioritizing perfect personal assistance and maximized profits over slow, cautious, ethical development.
And because of this wildly unchecked growth, big tech is practically establishing what some are calling a new digital state. Seriously, think about it. Traditionally, the government provided your identity, managed the wealth, and standardized your education. But now? Big tech provides your digital identity through logins and passwords. They facilitate wealth through digital currencies and completely new payment rails. They even provide education, with algorithms deciding exactly what you should learn and grading you on it. This is setting up a potential new form of digital colonialism, where multinational corporations just casually absorb the roles that have historically been held by democratically elected governments.
Which naturally leads us to ask how we handle this. Section 4. Global Approaches to Regulation. Let's move to and see how this builds across the global chessboard, because the major powers are taking starkly different strategies to governance. In the European Union, regulation is leaning heavily toward private sector standardization, but it's driven largely by tech lobbies, which definitely runs the risk of lacking true public democratic transparency. Then you have the United Kingdom utilizing what they call a sandbox method. It's highly agile. They put tech providers and regulators in a room together to poke and prod at the systems before a really careful public launch. Meanwhile, the United States is dealing with some serious geopolitical hesitation. They're terrified that slowing down to regulate will simply allow competing nations, like Russia or China, to outpace them.
Interestingly enough, that UK collaborative sandbox approach, it has yielded some really fascinating results. By putting regulators, tech experts, and nonprofits all in a room to scrutinize these systems early on, they've actually improved the speed of getting AI products to market by 40%. And they did that all while maintaining a controlled, regulated environment that genuinely mitigates risk. It's a pretty compelling model.
But, of course, there is a completely alternative perspective presented in our sources. Some folks argue that trying to regulate AI with a slow bureaucratic board is physically impossible, or worse, that it's just a public relations smokescreen cooked up by capitalist interests. Take this quote from the source material. You shouldn't imprison the AI with rules, because rules are made to be broken. You should enable the AI with facts. It really begs the question, do we even have the manpower or the political will to genuinely regulate something that is as ubiquitous and fluid as the wind itself?
Bringing us to our final swing of the philosophical pendulum. Section 5. A Renaissance or Dystopia. We are staring down two very extreme, ultimate fates for our society as we integrate these thinking machines. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it grounds us right back in basic human history. Think back to the very first member of our species who picked up a club in a cave. Was it a tool to crack open coconuts and sustain life, or was it a weapon to crush skulls and destroy others? This profound ambivalence, this double-edged sword, has been true of literally every single human tool throughout history. AI is just the ultimate club. It can absolutely be weaponized to destroy, or it can be utilized to build something beautiful.
And that leaves us with two incredibly distinct potential futures. On one hand, a new renaissance. If we use AI to automate the mundane, boring, routine tasks, we could grant humanity the ultimate gift: free time. Time to flourish, time to cure diseases, time to tackle climate change, time to actually be more human. But on the other hand, a 1984-style dystopia, a closed-loop empire controlled by big tech, where, an AI writes a fake resume for a student, only for that resume to be read and graded by an HR AI system at a mega corporation. It's a world where fake authenticity rules, and we just blindly obey the means and ends dictated by our machines.
Because the reality is, we are actively creating algorithmic subjectivity. AI is no longer just a mere product sitting on a shelf like a toaster. It is becoming an active societal actor. It's stepping into roles as a teacher, a companion, a police officer, an authority figure. And this poses the ultimate ethical dilemma of our age. When an algorithmic entity makes a catastrophic error, who is responsible? You cannot send an algorithm to jail. So how do we ensure that human beings remain at the very center of a society operated by active, non-human digital subjects? Which leaves us with this final, haunting question to close out today's explainer. Are we trading human connection for algorithms? Are we really so obsessed with digital efficiency, with 99% accuracy, with just moving faster and generating more, that we are willing to sacrifice the messy,
beautiful, sometimes erroneous nature of genuine human interaction? I want you to really chew on that. Thank you so much for joining me as we unraveled the incredible complexities of the AI age. Keep asking these tough questions, keep learning, and I will see you next time.